Okay, let's resume the meeting of July 1st. Call it order. Mr. Friend, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Valdivia.
Here.
Councilmember Friend.
Present.
Mayor Velazquez.
Here.
Councilmember Scatini.
Here.
Councilmember Gomez.
Present.
City Manager Coulter.
Here.
And Interim City Attorney Deborah Mall.
Present.
And Interim Chief of Police Carlos Reynoso.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the City Council meeting of July 1, 2013 was posted on the bulletin board on June 27th at 1:45 p.m. for Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you very much. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council went into closed session at 6 o'clock p.m. this afternoon, and 2 items were heard. And the third item that was on the agenda is continued to after the City Council meeting. The first item that was heard was a threat to public services or facilities. There was nothing to report. The second item that was heard was conference with labor negotiator. Direction was given to labor negotiator.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to Employee Service Awards, the fourth quarter. Who do we have up first?
Interim Fire Chief O'Connor was hoping to be here, and I know he's been rather busy lately. And then Carlos Reynoso.
I'm waiting for, he's working right now.
Oh,
Some busy guys out there.
yeah. Okay, Robert Galvan is, there he is.
Good. Mayor Velazquez and Council. Do I have a choice of who I go, or is it sort of a chronological by name? Good, I'll go with
Whichever way you
Nancy Durham first. Nancy's here? Good. Please come on down. Good. Good. Get face of council. Yeah, good. There you go. Okay. I'd like to introduce Nancy Durham, obviously part of our department. Nancy was hired right around at the beginning of June of 2008. And tonight's service award represents 5 years of continuous service with the City of Hollister as part of the Administrative Services Department, and specifically in the Finance Division thereof. Kind of going back in history, Nancy came on initially at a time when we were down to, if I may use the term over the television here, bare bones, and we basically were at a stage where we had lost a lot of the original employees in the department. So, and the division itself, Nancy did a tremendous amount of work for me and helped out in getting I want to say the stages of the general ledger, get everything back in order before Brett arrived. And as I said, it was we were very, very short on staff, but yet at the same time, the effort and I want to say the initiative was there, and Nancy was a part of that. She's worked alongside of a lot of the other areas in the department, and currently she's an integral part of the utilities. And for those of you that don't know the utilities operations, it not only is it the utilities component itself, but it's also the payment center. We've relocated over to the other segment, if you will, down the road here at City Hall. And basically from the standpoint of the workload over there, which is very, very high and ongoing, if you will. That includes the payment center operations itself, the processing of the monthly utility bills, coordinating with the water division and Clay and Henry's group with the monthly meter reads, and there's a long list of other responsibilities that are necessary to maintain an accurate and timely, and I want to say basically, I want to say a complex database that's used for the tracking of the utility customers and all the records thereof as a part of the city. So Nancy has been part of that unit, and again, as I said, we're very, very small on staffing, but as we've all heard during the budget, we're proud of what we do, and Nancy is an integral part of that. And That includes her productivity and the efficiency that she provides to the unit. So again, she's done a great job as part of the utilities and as part of the Administrative Services Department, as part of the City of Hollister. And she is well deserving of this 5-year service award for her 5 years of outstanding service to this organization. So in 2 seconds or less, there's my little spiel. There you go. And Nancy, thank you very, very much. There you go. Good. Okay. Congratulations. Good. Okay, good. Heidi McDonald, come on down, please. There you go. There's a lot of parallelisms here with this story, so I'll keep it brief as I always do. Heidi was also hired at the very beginning of June in 2008. Again, at a very critical point in time within the context of the entire city and also with the department when we had shortages in staff. And again, I was here during the interview process, and she stood out during the interview process as an outstanding candidate. So we obviously asked her to start the job, and she took up on the offer. And again, tonight, this is representative of 5 years of service with the City of Hollister, and again, within the Administrative Services Department. And in her case, it includes both the divisions, which would be the finance, budget, and accounting, as well as the risk management and the human resources. She's provided direct backup support to me in several of the key desks within the finance and also the HR and the risk management divisions. And right now, she's currently working within the utilities. I'm not going to read to you in detail the operations that you've already heard, but I think the most important factor is this, and Heidi's a good representative. Again, we have a very small group of individuals, if you will, in that department, and we're extremely proud of the fact, and Heidi is an integral part of this in terms of the fact that we're able to do the work and keep everything up in terms of the finance, the budget, the accounting, the utilities as being part of that. And the other major part, as I say, we always go by, people go by Christmas and Thanksgiving and summer holidays. The holidays that we celebrate in our department is basically the end of the budget cycle, the end of the open enrollment period, and the successful completion of the audit cycle. So those, again, there's another mirror, and I should probably add on there the ending of each monthly utility cycle too. So there's 4 of them. So with that being the case, again, Heidi is a key component in the utilities right now. As I said, that payment center is extremely busy, as you know. We are a full-service operation, and Heidi, along with Nancy, are the 2 individuals that overwatch and provide the oversight in the operations. The database, as I mentioned earlier, is massive, so keeping up with the actual information, keeping it accurate and timely, tracking all the utility customers, and also taking in the payments, the cash handling, all of that is an extremely, I want to say monumental job, but yet she does it extremely well. And the other factor is, within our unit, as you already heard during the budget, the budget presentations, everyone is cross-trained. So all the staff, and Heidi's a part of that, they can cover all the different units, I want to say with proficiency clear across the board, and we're proud of that fact. So with that being said, again, I want to congratulate Heidi for once again, an exceptional job for 5 years, and as part of the City of Hollister, and she's well deserving of this, and I congratulate you again. There you go. All right, great. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Captain Reynos's Police Department.
Bo, if you want to come forward, please. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm very happy to be here to present the 5-year pin to Officer Bo Leland. He's been shortly, right after he started with us, he received the commendation for his involvement in a vehicle pursuit that ended up being a foot pursuit that went through residential area in town and ended up in a commercial area in town with a suspect and a loaded handgun. So in his first year here, he received a commendation for that, for his involvement in that. He was instrumental in the MDC project that we've talked about. He worked together with Paul De Silva. Bo had a background with dispatching, and his knowledge with dispatching was very, very helpful for Paul in the department to get that thing going. Went through a lot of, it would have been a lot harder if it wasn't for Bo, and sometimes we were worried about what was going to happen, and he got there early and had fixed the problem already because of his knowledge. So he was great to do that and to help us with that. He's also one of the officers that came forward with a bike patrol idea. And not just the idea, but how to do it. And we resurrected some old bikes, got them fixed up, and we got a few officers, Bo being one of them, that were out there with the bike patrols. Haven't been able to do them as much as we like, but we got the system, we can take them out whenever we want, and it's thanks to Bo and a handful of other officers that were instrumental with that. He's also in the process of creating a non-for-profit foundation to try to raise funds for our canine here for our police department. So he's thinking outside the box, trying to look for things that can better our department. And he's also, keeping with the gun theme, last year is also involved in another incident along with 3 other officers where they had to, it was a long drawn-out fight. They ended up taking another loaded handgun away from a suspect that was trying to use it against our officers. So tactically, quick wit, and as you remember from the last council meeting, he's great to have as a backup and a great overall officer. So I'm really happy to present this 5-year pin to Bo Leland. I also have a pin here for Officer Stacy Esqueda. Officer Esqueda, in her short time with us of 5 years, has been instrumental in writing a lot of search warrants for major cases. She's come out and helped investigations when they needed it. She's also very knowledgeable. She's taken it upon herself to become more knowledgeable with the gang intel here in the city of Hollister. And she's also, in her time with us, has assisted in revamping our sexual registrant program. She made it more efficient by revamping it. She was instrumental in that. And she's also currently attending a 4-year college on her spare time, and she's very close to receiving her bachelor's degree, which is the reason why she couldn't be here today. She's going to school. So I will take this 5-year pin and present it to her when she comes back to work.
Thank you very much. Chief O'Connor?
Council, I got 2 individuals. First one is James Phil Rossi. He's here presently. He's our equipment coordinator. His job is to order all the personal protective equipment that we wear every day. His job is to inventory that, make sure that it's safe for us to wear. He does all the inventorying of the grass gear, all the helmets, everything, and it wasn't a big task until you take on 2 other departments and merge them together. He's been working day and night for the last month trying to get everything organized, inventoried. He's done a great job. And he also went from firefighter to an acting captain in 5 years. He's very intelligent. He's a go-getter. And there's not much more I can say except congratulations for 5 years. Our other individual is Greg Bencourt. He's been with us for 15 years. His job is to order all the materials for the library, training manuals, books, keep up those books and keep them updated, as well as our standard operating procedures. So Greg has been with us for 15 years. He was originally with us as a volunteer back in the early 90s, and he got hired back then, got laid off, and came back to work for us when we started rehiring people back in the 90s. He's been with us since. So congratulations to Greg, and I'll give this pin to him.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you that work so hard for the city. We appreciate all you do for the city. Let's move forward to item A.
Mr. Mayor, I have a speaker's card for A10.
A10.
That's it. Marty Richmond.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Marty Richmond from Hollister. I don't know if I can make it to the formal event, so I wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate appointed Chief David Westrick on his promotion to Chief of the Hollister Fire Department, and just reiterate a couple of things. We had several discussions here over weeks about the great technology that's available. I think Councilman Gomez brought up portable fingerprint readers, and we talked about license plate readers. We've got taser guns that we need to change out, and so on. But you know, those are the tools that professionals use, and these are not tools for amateurs. These are tools for professionals. So it isn't the two most important things I feel in our police department are the people who use the tools, the professionals, and the way they act, and their relationship with the community. And although I've had discussions on the side with Captain Reynoso and Chief Westrick, and I've written a lot of things in the newspaper, and I've written a lot of comments that people comment back on. And I've always said the two most important things for any police department are the professionalism of the people who are in it and the relationship with the community. It is not the license plate reader, and it's not the portable fingerprint reader, and it's not the safety vest. Those are the tools that a professional uses to do a better job. So I trust that Chief Westrick in his new position will continue our record of professionalism in the police department, and that Captain Reynoso, who's a professional, has done a professional job for us, will continue to do so too. And I want, again, congratulations to Chief Westrick. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speaker cards? Are there any items for discussion on council?
I want to pull A6,
A6,
A9, A11.
A9, and A11.
Yes.
I'll move that we approve all the consent items, A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12, and 13,
Second.
10. Also
and 10, I'm sorry.
The second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Move back to item A6.
I wonder if, are you going to come up and answer the questions I have?
Sure.
Or if Dave's going to do it?
I
Are
can
you?
answer any question you have, yes, in regards to
Okay.
that.
First of all, looking at it, you have quite a few objects, equipment that you're going to dispose of. And I was wondering, is it all that bad? Are they not usable? We're
Yeah.
talking about cameras, radios.
If you look at the list, sir, the items that are going to be disposed of are radios that are cannot be used in California and United States because of narrow banding. And if we let them go into the public, they can potentially be used to interfere with the radio's system that we currently have. They've been recommended to be destroyed for that reason. Other agencies as well are making sure that they're destroyed for that specific reason. The items, like the cameras, are on a different list. Those are going to go to auction, public auction, to recoup any monies that are possible.
The police department couldn't use them anymore?
No, sir, they're not all. We have cameras. We bought some cameras over 2 years ago through a grant. These are old cameras, more than 6 or 7 years old, I think. The megapixels, the first digital cameras that came out, some of them megapixels are only like 2 or 3. We have cheaper, better cameras now, and that's why they're going to go to auction.
Okay. And you had something else you were auctioning off. I'm trying to. Okay, that's fine. I think that's right.
Okay.
Thanks for
Yeah.
answering it.
Thank you. Is there a motion for,
I'll make a motion that we approve number 6.
is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Move on to item A9.
I'm going to scratch that one.
scratch that one.
I do, Mr. Mayor, I do have questions on that one.
A9?
Yeah,
Okay,
A9.
please.
Yeah, thanks, David. So according to the staff report, the manufacturer or the business that was it the installation or that provided the hardware for the installation of the one crosswalk at Hazel Hawkins Hospital? Is that technology? I guess the question I have is that technology sort of, because it seems like, at least from what I heard, there have been issues with the underground wiring to these types of crosswalks, and then the maintenance on these. And some are going to pedestrian-activated flashing beacons instead, solar-powered beacons instead of the crosswalks, the lighted actual in-ground lights. Is that something that you've heard, or is this still the best option to go when it comes to pedestrian safety on that road?
There are different manufacturers that promote differing products. The in-ground flashing products are something that we've assigned ourselves to believing to be the best installation product. The installations themselves do have flashing beacons on the signage in addition to the in-ground lighting, so it's kind of the best of both worlds that we're contemplating.
Because that's the ground and then the in sign.
Correct.
The surrounding sign.
And this product itself will have a new variation per a new manufacturer,
Okay.
differing from what we have at the high school and at Hazel Hawkins. The manufacturer at those two locations has gone out of business.
Yeah.
So
Because they have problems.
and we're having
Yeah.
problems with those
Okay,
installations.
so so I guess that's kind of where I was going. So are we looking to do something similar to it? I mean, is the problem coming from the company,
It's
or is the
coming-
problem coming from the type of crosswalk?
No, it's more the manufacturer of the equipment.
Okay.
The specifics of the sealed units that we've been installing at the other
Okay.
two locations.
And the reason I'm asking this is because I deal with most of the stuff in my job, and when it comes to pedestrian safety and some of the in-ground lights that we have in certain areas that we use are actually being removed, and they're being replaced with chokers and flashing beacons.
Right.
So they're going to, bulb outs and manually activated flashing beacons. Is that something that
We
was
did look at
discussed, or-
that application itself, and again, we've fallen back to the
this?
the multimodal
Okay.
installations. So.
All right, great. Yeah, I was just curious, just wondering how you determined to come back to it, just because I thought that there might have been problems with the in-ground ones.
Not to embellish the matter too much further, I guess, but with the other two installations that we have, we anticipate additional maintenance activity. It may be such an opportunity that we still change out to the flashing beacons only, based upon what we find with future
Okay.
installation successes.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved, is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to item A11.
Right, I have this, it's probably more of a question more than anything else, maybe you can answer it, Clint. I'm pretty very well familiar with the water, being I'm on Navy Committee in the water part. Why are we spending $59,000 for a consultant, which I don't like consultants to start with. I think we could do this in-house. I got a lot of respect for Mr. Bloom. I've worked with him quite a bit. But it seems to me $59,000 to have somebody tell us what water rates are. We couldn't do that in-house?
No, not,
What-
if you saw, I mean, that was Sanjay who was here.
Yes, I did.
His group.
Yes.
The work and the background that you don't see when they come to those rates balance hundreds of things. He has a spreadsheet that is miles long because you need to be sure that your rates can't be challenged. And that's why you hire professionals to do that. There are very few municipalities anyway, and quite frankly, probably very few water districts. Maybe some of the larger ones, but I don't even think the larger ones don't use a rate consultant to do this work. I mean, it's a specialized work, and you could probably hire somebody to do it, but then you'd have a $250 an hour guy on staff 5 years at a time until you went and did your next rate study, and it's not efficient to pay a guy, $250 an hour waiting every 5 years for him to do rates.
Well, explain to me then what, like I say, when it comes to the consultant on this, it didn't seem to me like it was a very big deal to find out what the rates are. I mean,
Absolutely. It's a huge deal. I mean, you need to take a
Well,
look.
I'm not saying it's a huge deal.
It is a huge deal.
But what I'm trying to say, we got educated people and engineers in the county, in the city, in the county, that seems to me that they could at least dig into, find what rates are.
Absolutely not. Not something as complicated as this. They just couldn't.
I'm not convinced, but thank you for your
Well,
information.
yeah, no, fair enough.
Okay, is there any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Sorry, were there any no votes on that?
Yeah, right here.
Thank you.
Voted no. Thank you very much.
And on the consultants.
Okay, let's move forward to item B. The RDA,
A motion to approve warrant registers.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We'll move to item C. This is public input. This is a time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Are there any speakers?
Marty Richmond?
Marty Richmond, Hollister, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Happy birthday, USA. The 4th of July is coming up, and I just wanted to get that opportunity in here and to remind everybody in local government that there's a straight line connecting those lovely folks from 1775, not 1776, 1775, to what we do here today. People like to think of Independence Day as if it happened all by itself. Actually, American independence was a result of a war, a very vicious war, that lasted 8 years, 4 months, 2 weeks, and 1 day. And it actually turned into a world war that involved the United Kingdom and all its colonies, the United States of America, which was declared in 1776 by the Declaration of Independence, and it also involved France and the Netherlands and Spain, which was much of the Western world at that time, and all their colonies. And Americans suffered during that war approximately 50,000 casualties, which may not sound like a lot over 8 years, but the population of the 13 colonies, which became the United States of America, was only 2.5 million people. So it was somewhere between 1.5% and 2% of the population. Brought to today's numbers, that would equal somewhere between 3 and 6 million people. So that gives you some idea of the sacrifices people made. So next time someone's outside chanting, war, what is it good for? Well, it's good for making a country. That works. It's good for protecting your rights. That works. And it's good for keeping tyranny at bay. That works. So I know it's very now, I'll use those words in quotes, it's very now to say that wars never have a good outcome. Well, the American Revolutionary War from 1775 to 1783 came out pretty good in the end. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? No. Item D and E, there's no business. Move forward to item F.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's with great pride and satisfaction that we bring this to you tonight. This is not the culmination, but the very near the institutional culmination of work that started between the city, San Benito County, and the San Benito Water District in 2002, really in earnest. At that point in time, the city, the county, and the San Benito County Water District entered into a memorandum of understanding with regard to the Hollister Urban Area Water and Wastewater Master Plan. That was to be an integrated plan for improving water, wastewater facilities, service reliability, quality, and managing both quality and quantity of water in the basin. And it was really, it was a big deal at the time and is a big deal now. Subsequently, in February of 2008, the Sunny Slope County Water District became part of our group. We had always left a spot for Sunny Slope to be in the group. They did. We entered into an amendment with them in February of 2008 that had what we called the coordinated plan, which was basically the Hollister Urban Area Water and Wastewater Master Plan with the needs and responsibilities of Sunny Slope County Water District included. Fast forward to a lot of work, a master plan that was completed, any other number of things that occurred. And as we got to looking at the institutional agreements to implement the Hollister Urban Area Water and Wastewater Master Plan, the city, the county, and Sunny Slope executed a statement of intent. And if you'll recall, that statement of intent in 2011 really identified the negotiating framework for the water supply and treatment agreement. All of those documents were respected, were followed, and the deal points were included in the water supply and treatment agreement that's before you this evening. I know most of you have served on the governance committee, which provided the direct guidance to put this together. At a meeting I was at this morning, it was pointed out quite correctly that this agreement, this whole program, was not put together by engineers sitting in a room, secretly doing stuff. There were 2 elected members of all of these bodies intimately involved with this every step of the way, ensuring the intents of the memorandums of understanding were followed, ensuring that the points of the statement of agreement were included, and moving us forward to this point. I've included those foundation documents, I'll call them, for you in your packet. Additionally, I've included a memo that kind of talks through the deal points to a certain extent, and I provided you with a presentation that was made to the Finance Subcommittee and the Governance Committee, and has been seen by most folks. A lot of that information was provided, has been provided to all of you by Mr. Blom once a month moving forward. Those of you that went on the tour, a lot of this information was provided when we went on a tour of the facilities. So I have that presentation loaded up. I can go through that. Quite frankly, there's a lot of tedium in there that you've heard a lot of times. If it's all right with you, what I would like to do is kind of use that as a basis and kind of walk through the deal points with you, just so that we're all on the same page of what the deal points are. You can see that we respected those foundation agreements and have put together the program that we've all expected. So if that's all right with you, that's what I'll do.
Yes, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so bear with me. I've got some notes here to ensure that I cover everything. The first thing is the term of the agreement. The agreement will remain in place until all capital costs have been recovered or until 30 years after execution. Thereafter, it can be renewed in 10-year terms. Each party has the option not to renew upon 1-year notice. A couple of things are precedent to this agreement going into effect. So you will adopt the agreement tonight. However, if the O&M agreement between Sunny Slope and the San Benito County Water District does not get done, this agreement doesn't go into effect. I believe they are very close to getting that done. That is not a problem. The second one is that that the water rates are adopted in order to support this program. You will be considering the rates for the city on August 5th. Sunny Slope County Water District will be considering the rates for their customers on August 6th. The next is kind of discussion about the quantities of water to be treated. This is all stuff you've heard, so I won't dig into this too deep. But the district will be delivering 4,760 acre-feet annually. They'll be providing that from a number of sources, including Central Valley Project water, out-of-basin banking, spot market purchases, and long-term transfers. Ultimately, we expect to be doing some local banking in the North County area where we have some very high-quality water to where we could store additional high-quality water and not have it degrade. The limitations of supply, for example, if we enter into a drought condition, it would be allocated to each retailer based on the estimated monthly demand presented to the district. One of the things we do is each year we estimate the amount of water that we need to, that we know what we're going to need on a monthly basis so that they have that available. If there's a drought, it would be reduced proportionally so it's done fairly between the city and Sunny Slope. Additionally, in years of shortage, the distribution of the water would use the shortage policy and the urban water management plan. Every 5 years, we are required to do an urban water management plan. The city and Sunny Slope and the San Benito County Water District typically do that together. You guys approve it. There's one on file that has our water shortage policies in there. Those would be used if that becomes necessary. One of the nice things about being a municipality and getting M&I water, our water is protected much better than, say, ag water when you see the things that go on. And Jeff's in the audience, he can correct me, but my understanding is this year ag water is cut to 20%. M&I water is still at 70%. So between the various sources, the 70% CVP, we believe that we have a program that can really sustain the quantities of water that are necessary for our community to comfortably move forward. The other thing, of course, the water quality will meet, there's an attempt to meet the goals as stated in the MOU. They will be substantially improved. We've all agreed that they won't be completely met with this initial phase, but we'll be awfully close to meeting them. The other thing is that as the owner of the facilities, and I'll get to that in a minute, the district will be responsible for meeting all state mandated water quality requirements for the treated water as it leaves the treatment plants. Once it gets into the distribution system, it's the responsibility of the water purveyor, which would be us, and for their water, the Sunny Slope County Water District. There's a provision in there for an advisory committee. The advisory committee is made up of the general managers, chief executives of the agencies. Their function is to facilitate communication, coordinate responses to concern, response to drought, O&M issues, regulatory issues, and all other common concerns. They will hold regular meetings quarterly and can call special meetings on 72 hours notice. That's kind of the formal advisory committee. In practice, I believe that the group will continue to meet on an extremely regular basis and work through things as need to be worked on. But this is put in here to ensure that that occurs no matter who is here. The next piece is water supply and treatment program facilities. Going to talk a little bit, included in there are the commitment of funds. The San Benito County Water District commits up to $30 million financing for design, permitting, planning, and construction of the water treatment facilities. If the costs exceed the $30 million, the parties shall consult to discuss whether to proceed or whether to get additional financing. I believe there's some wiggle room in that as well. When we confirm that we do want to go above that, if it becomes necessary, the district would seek additional outside funding. So we just all have to agree to the additional funding if it becomes necessary. The project to be funded under the Les Salt plan, I'm not going to go into that hugely. The pipeline from Les Salt to the high zone, which is Ridgemark and the far southeast portion of Hollister, the West Hills Water Treatment Plant, and the program design, permitting, and construction costs incurred after September of 2011. Those are the costs that the city and Sunny Slope have incurred since the adoption of the statement of intent, they would be included in that financing. Ownership of the facilities, and again, these are things that you directed us to do with the statement of intent. The ownership of the facilities will all be with the San Benito County Water District. Les Salt, which is jointly owned by the city and Sunny Slope, will be transferred to the San Benito County District. And the city and Sunny Slope will transfer the real property for the West Hills plant, which we also own jointly, to the San Benito County Water District. And then once it's constructed, the West Hills treatment plant will be owned by the San Benito County Water District. The operation of the facilities, Sunny Slope County Water District will operate both of those facilities. They currently operate Les Salt. There'll be an O&M agreement between them and the San Benito County Water District, and they will operate both facilities. We believe there's some real advantages for having one operator for both of the facilities, and Sunny Slope are a good group to do that. Future capital improvements to accommodate growth. One thing to keep in mind with the sizing of these facilities, we've sized these facilities to essentially cover growth that's in the planning stages or kind of on the books that we know of today. We did not build a huge amount of capacity into the facility, and that was done kind of as a hard-learned lesson. If you'll recall, when we did the wastewater treatment plant, we built capacity for that for our anticipated development out to 2023 based on growth projections in 2004. What occurred, as we all know, in 2008 when development stopped, there were no funds coming in from development. Hopefully we'll see that. That'll help offset some of the cost of the facility. But right now, really, the ratepayers are paying for that cost of that increased capacity. So we tried to find more of a happy medium here to where there is some capacity, but we didn't build a bunch of capacity in there that the ratepayers are going to be stuck with if for some reason growth doesn't occur. So that's why it's sized the way it is. So as we go forward, we'll have to amend the agreements to talk about how those new developments purchase their capacity, because all of us as water customers in City and Sunny Slope have purchased this capacity that we now have. It's only fair that future folks purchase their capacity as well. So again, the payment or the kind of the financial plan, the district is to will provide internal financing, as I mentioned, up to $30 million. That does not include the $10 million contribution, non-repayable contribution that they're making to the project, and I'll touch on that in a few minutes. We'll be financing the facility in 2 phases. I think we went through this a little bit when we were talking about the overall financing picture for the project. The first phase will cover the cost of Les Salt, the high zone pipeline, the cost from the statement of intent that I had talked about, as well as the design of West Hills. That first tranche of financing will be approximately $13 million. That phase 1 will be financed for 30 years at a rate of 4.5%. I'll talk to you about the financing a little more in just a second as I get through the second tranche. The second phase will cover the West Hills construction cost up to $17 million. The interest rate on phase 2 finance will be at a base of 4% as of June 1st, 2013, indexed to the 25 revenue bond index from June 1st, 2013 to the time of commitment of phase 2 funds, and it'll be paid back over a 20-year term. And each of us will be responsible for half the capital cost. And just to talk about the financing a little bit, the financing is really an excellent opportunity, I think, for everyone involved. It allows us to go out and finance through the San Benito County Water District. We had a company, Suter, I'm sorry, I forget the full, I just always call them Suter. It's Suter Securities, I believe. Sutter Securities Incorporated. They did a little analysis for us to look at the cost of us doing the financing in-house versus going out on the bond market. The things that are required of a bond placement, including the placement cost for your bond underwriter, the cost of your bond counsel, the requirement to have a reserve fund in place, and the requirement to have specific coverages included in your rates made the difference, the savings to us by doing the financing in-house was approximately somewhere between $2 and $4 million, depending on what sort of deal you got in the bond market. So just our initial borrowing, super conservative estimate, we're saving $2 million as the city in Sunny Slope by financing it with the San Benito County Water District, and it's probably more than that. When we look at the interest rates, one of the things we looked at with the interest rates, San Benito County Water District has funds available in reserves, but those reserves are for the payment of indebtedness that they have on the San Felipe project. And they need to get a specific rate of return in order to make that occur. There was an opportunity for them to have a very safe investment with the city in Sunny Slope to meet those return needs, to save us this money, as well as for us to get a rate that is very comparable to what we would get in the market. And that's one of the things we've taken a look at. That index bond that I spoke to you about a minute ago, the current rate as of the end of May was 4.39%. For a 30-year bond. We're locking in, and they're going up. They're going up. It looked about, I don't know, 10 basis points a month, give or take. I mean, it fluctuates however it does. But we are at 4.5% on that first tranche. We are very, very close to that. Plus, we have all the savings with the cost of issuance. We don't have to go through the other thing I didn't include was to get those good rates, you need to get insurance. Insurance is expensive. That's part of that savings. We don't have to go out and get rated. Just any number of things. And like I say, for us, one of the big things is we're able to protect the consumers because we can keep our rates a little lower because we don't have to do coverages that bond covenants would require. With regard to the second tranche, it's based at the 4% rate as of now. And then what will happen is, to ensure that we're still competitive, what will happen is that bond fund index, we won't match the bond fund index. We will match the change of the bond fund index to the 4%. So if the 4.39% goes up, whatever it is, 5%, we would apply that 5% to the 4% rate. So we're below market on that. So I mean, it's really a tremendous opportunity that for all of us to, I think, really came up with a novel solution to save the community a fair amount of money on this funding, or the way that we finance this.
Excuse me, with that 4%, that 5%, if it goes up, would that be 9% then?
No, 4% if it went up, 5% would be 4.2%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's the financing. Please feel free to stop me anytime. I think a lot of you are fairly familiar with this. I'm drilling down a little bit into the details more tonight, but I think most of you are pretty familiar with it. The payment structure, when we get our bills, one of the nice things that we're going to see is they're going to be providing us a lot of data in our billing. We won't just get a bill and have to guess at what's in there or go back and audit those things. They'll really specifically identify the capital cost component, which is our bond repayment. It'll identify our direct costs, which are the insurance, the fee, the regulatory fees, I think PG&E costs, then the capital replacement reserve we'll have in there for replacement of parts or of things as they get older. The administrative fee, what we've done on that is, as opposed to tying a percent to it, we're actually the district is going to track the administrative costs that they have, and they will go ahead and identify those for us. So we will wait till we have 3 months of experience before we start seeing that bill. There's the raw water component, so you'll see what the raw water is costing us, and then the treated water component, which is the O&M cost for operating the facilities. And then we would be billed on a monthly basis for that. And then to the districts, the $10 million non-reimbursable contribution. As we moved into this, and the district was, in addition to providing the financing, was very interested in being a financial partner on making the project move forward. And so they've supplied $10 million to the project, which is not reimbursable to them. That's cash into the project. $5 million to each of the agencies, which is the city and Sunny Slope County Water District. Each retailer had the option of either using it as a capital buy-down or using it for rate stabilization. As you'll recall, in the very first meeting we had with Raftellus, they ran through those options for you. You guys chose to do the capital buy-down. If you recall, that saved money in the long term. The rate stabilization just really did not achieve any savings for us because we had to be at the same point at the end, and so in order to phase it in over time, it had to work like that. Sunny Slope has a little different situation. I believe they will be using the rate stabilization because their rates hit them harder earlier because they have to, because of previous bonding that they've done, they do have those coverage requirements that are in those bond covenants that affect this financing as well. So like I say, that was an advantage for us, is we don't have any other outstanding bonds on our water enterprise. So our coverage is 1.0. We need to collect the amount we need to pay the district. So that's one of the things that's advantageous to us. So with that, I think that really covers the deal points. Again, I think it's a long time coming. It's something we've worked on for over 10 years. It's got us a new wastewater facility. We're very close to completing the Hollister Urban Area Water and Wastewater Master Plan, or having the implementation nearly completed this phase anyway, to get that higher quality water for our customers, to have that higher quality go into our reclamation facility, which, as you'll recall, that was one of the follow-ups. Building, when we dealt with the regional board, completing that facility was not the end of the road. We have salt requirements that hit us in 2015 that we need to be in compliance with. This is we believe, the most efficient way to have that occur. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. We have Mr. Blum in the audience to answer questions. We have the General Manager of the San Benito County Water District and the General Manager of the Sunny Slope County Water District in attendance also, and they can speak to their components of the agreements. I will note that both of those agencies have previously approved the agreement. It's gone to their boards, they've approved the agreement. So once we approve it, it is locked in and really just contingent upon rates getting approved and an O&M agreement getting approved. So,
Thank you. Your speakers?
Marty Richmond.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Marty Richmond from Hollister. I have a question on a previous presentation. I was able to follow the entire thing on the funding until we started talking about taking the rate and pumping it up. What happens if the rate goes up? The question is, are we talking about a variable rate here?
No.
Taking a
No, that's, okay, what it is what we did is, it's not gonna start for 2 years, and so what it is the base is 4%. Whatever happens between now and when we get the money.
Oh,
that's
it's,
the thing.
okay.
And then once we
Okay.
get the money, we lock that rate.
Okay, so then it's a fixed rate. Thank you.
Yes.
I got a little, I didn't hear you
Yeah.
say the 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councilmember Gomez?
Yeah, the only thing I could really say is I was part of the governance committee at one point as well, and I got to say, there's nothing, occasionally things like this come, and not occasionally, but when they do come, folks say they were caught off guard, or we were doing things in the backroom deals were being done, and all that good stuff, and that had nothing to do with this. We were as transparent as we possibly could be, and members of the public were always invited. All of our meetings were public. My email is open. My phone number's in the newspaper, along with everybody else here. So we even, we've done our I think our part to let the folks know. I did receive my Sunny Slope water bill this morning, and we even had a specific newsletter there detailing the information. And unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of people will grab that newsletter and throw it in the garbage and then pretend they never got it. But, I think this process has been pretty transparent. So I'm excited. I'm excited about the quality of the water that this is going to provide for our city, for our outlying areas as well. And then obviously the impact that it will have on the opportunity to go through another tour of the wastewater treatment facility. Saw some stuff that I don't really care to remember, but it's nice that we have a very nice facility there, and I know that's going to have a positive impact on us as well. So I'm very excited to see this go forward. So kudos to all those that were involved in the process, and it shows that interagency workings, things like this can be done. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Scatini?
I just want to say that I've been involved in it the last 8 years, 4 years before, and almost 7.5 years. At this time, I've been on the Water Board, Water Resource Board, Governance Committee Board, the Water Finance Committee Board, and so I'm pretty familiar with all the hard work that Harry and Clinton and the rest of the group did in the committees, and also Jeff and a gentleman back there in the white shirt, I don't know. Don. He sells good cold water, though, I know that. Last Saturday, he sold some good cold water. But at any rate, you guys did an outstanding job, and I personally very supportive of this.
Councilmember Friend?
Yeah, I just want to second what Councilmember Scatini said and Councilmember Blanc said, because I understand what it's taken to get to here, and I'm just impressed that the three agencies could get to this point and get basically the north part of the county brought together on this water issue, and I think that's an outstanding, and you should be commended for doing that, all of you. Thank you.
Councilmember Valdivia?
Just a few words. I'm really excited about it. We're finally, Harry, it's the end. I remember at the beginning there was a rough start. Very rough. But everybody moved ahead, and all the three entities worked together, which was really great. And I just want to thank everybody that was involved and who is involved, and the expertise that are involved to get this done. And I appreciate that, because it takes a lot of work. I'm just really happy to see that it's finally come to this point, and we're moving forward. So with that, I would like to make a motion. I don't know if I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2013-01, and then we can discuss it a little.
I will second that.
Okay, we can discuss.
Thank you. I have a few questions, and obviously it's a large project, and the question I have is, we're looking at a number of 30 million for the project. If it goes past that, we start having discussions on whether to proceed. How comfortable are we with that number? I get a little worried with
Just to let you know, it's actually, well, go ahead, Harry.
government and construction always seems to have a 100% increase to it.
Well, I will say that on the wastewater treatment facility, we were about $20 million.
But that was,
under the
that
estimate.
timing right there was when there was a downturn, so I'm a little worried as things are moving up quickly. So how do you feel about those
Well,
numbers?
first of all, this is not the fix of the Bay Bridge.
None of those bolts are coming here, huh?
The way we've structured these costs, Mayor Velasquez, is that we have added a contingency that we expect to spend every step of the way. And when in doubt, we've been conservative. For example, you've been briefed on our problems with the California tiger salamander, and there's several options for dealing with threatened and endangered species. We have some solutions. We've been coordinating with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation and the state agencies, and we have some ranges of costs. We've picked the highest level of cost estimate for those things. So none of us have a crystal ball. The economy could change radically in the next several years, and we could see construction costs go up. But we have had, across the board, at least a 20% contingency and sometimes more. And I would invite any of the other managers to respond to that as well if you have more questions.
The other question I would have is, how are we going to control the O&M costs out there so we don't see spikes in our, well, so we can control, how do we get these rates lower then? I mean, we talked about the rates, but really this is dependent on the O&M, so let's.
I think what I'll do is give you a quick statement of how we selected the sites in our approach to O&M, and then let the two managers that are negotiating this deal, Don Ridenauer from Sunny Slope and Jeff Catania from the Water District, give you some more of the details. But I explained in maybe the last meeting or some previous meetings that when we selected the site, and at least some of you were on the governance committee when we selected the West Hill site, it was selected to be number one, we looked at the cost of future operation and maintenance, and that plant was then, the process was chosen and the elevation was chosen to make sure that we have the longest term and most economic type of operation for that facility. And we were very diligent in that. And we looked at several sites, and we looked at all costs from cradle to grave. What would it take to build it and then operate it? And so the West Hills site, as an example, we had options on whether to go to West Hills or some other site. And we chose one that would be operationally the most economic and have the longest term economic viability. On the Les Salt plant, we selected the processes there that we're upgrading to take care of the disinfection byproducts, and we considered estimates for the operation and maintenance of that facility as part of the overall process. And so we've considered it at, say, the engineering and implementation level, but the hammering out of the specific agreements, I'll defer to the two managers.
Thank you.
If I may address those mayor and council members, my name is Don Ridenauer, and I'm the general manager of Sunny Slope County Water District. And I've been here a short time, so I can't take all the credit for our agency being a part of this partnership and cooperative agreement. My predecessor and others have been involved. It's just been a short year and a half for me. But as far as keeping operations and maintenance costs under control, Sunny Slope has operated the Les Salt water treatment plant now for more than 10 years. And I think we've demonstrated that we're capable of running the plant economically and fairly, for the city as well as Sunny Slope. So we have a lot of experience running that specific plant, and I think we're capable and have the operators who are trained properly to do it. But I must also add is we have skin in the game, so we're not some outside agency. These costs are going to be ours as well as the city, so it's in our interest to keep those costs under control because they affect our rates as well as they do the cities. The other point is we're not guaranteed this operation in perpetuity. It's in 5-year increments, so if in 5 years' time the city or others aren't happy with our operation of the plant, it can be revisited. And I'm confident that we'll do a good job and that won't be necessary to go find, another agency or a private contractor to run the plant. I'm comfortable that we're capable and we'll demonstrate that. But each agency will have that opportunity for that review. But just I can't emphasize enough is there are costs as well, and so it's in our interest, Sunny Slope's residents, our customers' interest, to keep those costs down too. So be happy to answer any questions.
The other question I had for you, how do those, between the city rates and Sunny Slope rates, how do they compare to each other?
They compare fairly well. Sunny Slope's rates are slightly higher than the city's, partly because of one of the comments that Clint made earlier, is we have some coverage ratio costs that we have to add to our rates because we have debt for facilities that dates back some time. So that adds some costs that we have to generate a little more revenue than our actual cost to demonstrate that we're capable of repaying that debt. This new debt that we're taking on has to be part of that. We have to cover those same coverage ratios because of those bond requirements. But at the end of 5 years, 6 years, we're going to be very, very close. Our rates are going to be very, very similar.
Okay, thank you. Are we still going to provide those, are you still going to provide those tours to the plants for those citizens that have questions about what this is really all about? So I know for me, when you took me out there, that really made a huge difference on my opinion on the whole project.
We had not planned on giving citizens a tour of the Pacheco pumping station. That's quite a long period of time. But we have discussed internally having an open house at the less salt plant and having a period of time on a weekend where people could come visit. We've also said that during construction, and construction could start in September, early September, that we would make tours available, safety permitting, for people to come see what's going on in those areas. So there is no mystery, and they can see regular updates. But it would be more of instead of a bus tour like you had, it would be more of an open house approach.
You know, I think the reason I'm bringing that up is obviously people are going to have questions about these ever-increasing rates, and people have an idea that water just kind of pops out of the ground and it falls, it runs right through their pipes and down the sink and showers. And you go through a facility like that and you realize how much work goes behind that, the tunnel and so on. Just think it might be a good idea to keep that option open for those that do have questions. So,
For sure. If we had enough subscribers, I'm sure we could find a way of doing it.
I'm sure we're going to have a lot of people
Right.
coming in to talk about the rates increasing, so I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people willing to go on a tour.
I would like to see background checks of anybody going out to the Pacheco pumping plant. Just to be completely honest with you, that's...
Well, there you go. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, we had is there any other discussion of the council members?
I just want to make one comment, Harry, that since we talked about the rates and stuff, I must have got at least 40 calls from people, from citizens, and most of them probably knew me, but asking about the rates. And I told them there's going to be an open house, or there's going to be some, sure, and they were happy about that. But there is a lot of concern out there, very, very much so. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? So there was a first and a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? None? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Take a 5-minute break.
We'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you. on to item F2.
G2.
Is it F or E?
G2.
No, it's F2.
I'm sorry.
Mayor Velazquez and Vice Mayor Scutini and Council. What you have before you tonight, this is item 2. There's actually 2 components to the agenda item. The first is we're requesting that you adopt Resolution 213-102, the resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister adopting the budget for the City of Hollister for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2014. And also, as a component of that is Resolution 2013-103, which is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister defining the factors to be used in determining the city's appropriations limit and setting the appropriations limit for the City of Hollister for fiscal year 13-14 in the manner consistent with Article 8B of the Constitution of the United States. What I'd like to go ahead basically and do is briefly just go into the budget that we were asking that you adopt. As you know, we had the initial workshop and then the follow-up on the 12th and the 13th of June, with the follow-up last week on the 25th. And obviously, we want to thank you in advance as a council for the going through this process with us. We are of the understanding that we've been very, very thorough in covering the details, and the most important factor is that with what you have given us as far as the final direction that was established as of the 25th last week, we are now including those 11 items in the budget as was discussed in detail last week. And now before you, you have the total operating budget, which is defined in the resolution again, which is $44,169,383. There's 48 separate funds. Again, to emphasize I want to say briefly here, but yet being specific, the general fund, the operating and the operating budget for fiscal year 13-14 is at $17,408,569, and then alongside of that, as a component, the Measure T/E funds that are listed in the resolution total $3,730,000. And then again, you have all the other special funds, the enterprise funds, and alongside of that, the assessment districts. Again, going back, we've included the 11 items, made the adjustments as you now have in the budget to be adopted. And the most important factor is, with your approval this evening, we will take that adopted budget, move forward. We have our schedule, as you requested, to be appraised of 2 items. One is the status of the budget to make sure that our projections for revenues are on track, and we'll bring that to you in the quarterly progress reports as well as the monthly Finance Oversight Committee meetings that we have scheduled. And then we also have the mid-year budget review that we've done in the past that will bring back the additional, I want to say, the appropriations changes that will be included, or I want to say identified and included to bring us to the halfway point. And then the other important factor is we've included in there the items as, I want to say, as complicated as the payment of the side fund, and also the other factor being all the other items for the grant-funded projects and such, and the positions that you identified to be included as part of the operating budget for ending June 30th, 2014. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because we've discussed this over the last several meetings, but I can answer any specific questions. And then what I'd like to do after, if I can answer those questions first, then I'll go ahead and just briefly cover the basis and I want to say the details of the appropriations limit, and then I'll address any final questions that you have.
Okay. Are there any speakers?
Can I use your notes? Marty Richard from Hollister. Having sat through a lot of budget hearings over several years, I thought the budget hearings this time went pretty well. Moved along well, and I think the only recommendation I would have as a member of the public, you can take it for what it's worth, is that I think you're just trying to do a little too much management on the fly during the budget hearings. I think some of these good ideas people have about saving money, they ought to form it before the budget hearings, flesh it out, and then bring it forward, rather than trying to do this on the fly. Well, what about this? Can we change that? Can we change that? Because a lot of those are management decisions, and I'm just a little disappointed that that didn't get in. So that budget went good. I also would like, several people have approached me and asked me about one item, and I hope they're listening so I can talk through the council to the people at home. A balanced budget is required by the law in the state of California for counties and cities, the budget law. And so just saying we have a balanced budget means really nothing as far as your financial condition is concerned. Every entity in California that's gone bankrupt, whether it be Stockton or San Bernardino or Vallejo or wherever, had a balanced budget on the record. You can bet on it. What you have to do, if you want to, just for the public's information, if you have an interest in really what condition we're in, you have to dig into the numbers and see where the dollars come from, where the dollars go, and whether or not you believe you have everything you want. So, for instance, if the police budget, and I'll use that, maybe that's a bad example considering the last couple of weeks, but if the police budget balances, that's fine. But if you decide you don't have enough policemen, obviously you've made it balanced by taking the policemen away. If some other budget balances and you have too many people, that's fine. It's balanced, but obviously you're spending your money somewhere else. So I urge the public to not use the term balanced budget to mean anything concerning our financial condition, because we will always have a balanced budget until the day we're out of money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? Councilmember Valdivia?
Well, I support everything that we discussed, that we approved in meetings and everything that's here before us.
Thank you. Councilmember Friend?
I don't have any other questions other than what's already been asked and answered.
Vice Mayor Scatini?
I have many questions that during the budget time, I couldn't take the time to talk to the department heads, but I plan on doing that within the next couple of months. But all in all, I was kind of happy with the way it went.
Thank you. Councilmember Gomez?
Yeah, just thanks to our city manager and the finance staff for their work, and obviously all the department heads for what they're doing in keeping within the asked budget. You know, that as a council we approved last year, so I think we did a pretty good job on staying on target with those. And I agree with Marty. I think it was a livelier discussion than I think we've had in past couple of years, and I think that leads to good things for our city. So I think I was happy with the discussions that we had, and I'm happy with the direction that we're taking to take care of some of the issues that we have for our future. So I'm happy to see that this is finalized.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Obviously, I've been the person out there, I think, talking about how we need to make sure we're doing the best we can for the community, for the city, using our funds the best way possible. I appreciate the work you put into it. I appreciate the fact that we looked at different ways to make sure we get there. Personally, I don't think we did enough. I think I like to see a balanced budget, meaning without the extra sales tax in there, because I think it's a crutch that we're using. But using it wisely right now, I like the plan that you laid out. I obviously like to see it be more aggressive, but I can work with it. And again, it's because the layout that you provided us, the direction of working towards knocking down those side funds, is the area that I think is making me feel more comfortable for what will happen in 4 to 5 years. And knowing that a lot of the employees in the city have worked with the city so hard for so long, it's nice to see us moving forward here. So I want to thank you for all the work you put into it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Then what I'll go ahead and do, before the motion, I'll go ahead real briefly here, and then maybe we can have I want to say the vote for both items. The second item is Resolution 213-103, which is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister defining the factors to be used to determine the city's appropriations limit and setting the appropriations limit for the City of Hollister for fiscal year 13-14 in the manner consistent with Article 8B of the Constitution of the State of California. Briefly, I know we've covered this, we always cover this annually. This is required, again, by the California Constitution, and basically sets the upper boundaries for the amount of monies that in our case, the city is allowed to spend from the state tax proceeds. And basically, the calculations that are done allow us to determine if that, in fact, that we have not, I want to say, exceeded the threshold or we are below the threshold. In this case, we are again, once again, below that threshold. So we are once again in compliance. And again, as a formality, in the same way that we have with the other factors that we have in the budget, we'll do that annually. And then again, we'll be back before you again in fiscal year 14-15. But at this point, this will take us for the 1 year. Again, I want to say concurrent with the adoption of the budget. So with that, I can answer any final questions. And I want to say a final thanks to Mr. Meller in the back, who did, I want to say, a gargantuan, I think I can say that over the television, a gargantuan job in putting the budget together, spent hours and hours and hours, and also the staff below in the finance division. You heard the introductions today, and that always puts the rubber where the road is or wherever the saying is, but obviously they basically put a tremendous amount of time. And the other factor is all the department heads and all the support from the department heads who provided all the information for us to come back to you and have this budget adopted here versus having to wait and having a continuation. So thank you all, everybody else. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion
For resolution?
for Resolution 2013-102 and 103.
Second.
Be approved.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very
Great,
much.
thank you very much.
We'll move on to item G1, reports from city council committees. Councilmember Gomez.
No, I don't have a lot to report out of
From any of the committees?
COG, really. I mean, the only thing, well, we talked about a broad amount of issues, but I guess the most interesting one out of all of them, and Councilmember Scatini could add to whatever he thought was important there, but so interestingly enough, we received a recommendation from two of the county supervisors to ask Senator Cannella to, or I guess to withdraw our letter of support to Anthony Cannella and the renaming of Highway 25 to Pinnacles National Park Highway. Supervisor Botello and Supervisor Munzer felt like there was a lot of, I guess, backlash from their constituents in regards to the renaming. So they I asked for COG to reconsider the letter and have it withdrawn from the senator's bill. I am in favor of the name change, though I don't think we probably did the best job at getting out there and letting the folks know. We kind of just dropped it on them. But I think that overall it's a good thing. I don't see how it could hurt. A lot of people were complaining that, it was going to be a big headache to change your address and all that good stuff. And though I agree there is some work in getting some of those address changes done, there is a grace period, and we are given quite a bit of time to make those changes. I myself am one of the residents of Airline Highway. I own a business on Airline Highway, and I would also have to change my address. And I just changed my address 6 months ago because Panda split everything into 5. So I just went through a name change, or excuse me, a suit change just 6 months ago. So I understand that it's not the most exciting thing to go through, but you're given plenty of time to make those changes. The supervisors felt the pressure, and they brought the item back to COG, and the bill's already there, and I really doubt that asking him to withdraw that letter is really going to change anything. But the bill continues. So, like I said, I think, you know, we were all supportive of it initially when it went to COG. I guess things changed. So anyway, that was kind of the main thing that went on when it came to COG. I don't know if Supervisor, or excuse me, Director or Councilmember Scatini has anything to add to it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I think what happened on COG was that most of us felt that he had the letter already, and why withdraw it? So we left it as such. So, and there was people from South County that passed out the names that they wanted to have it change, not change, and some of them were in the audience, and I had a couple relatives on that list that wanted to not change the highway. Any rate, what happened is that it was too far gone, and we just left it as such. So that's the way it is.
Any other comments?
All he said is if they don't like it, they'll contact Senator Canella, and they can do it on their own. That's about it.
That's it. There is an update on this whole matter. It seems that Soledad doesn't like to wait around and miss opportunities. So being that they like all of our ideas, they're trying to rename their portion Pentacles National Park Highway. This is why it's important sometimes to move quicker rather than slower, and hopefully ours stays in front of the queue there. And, you know, these things happen. Unfortunately, people hear misinformation and believe it's going to cost them the world. But until we start learning how to work together, we're always going to be that place that wonder why it never changed out there. Sometimes that's good. This case, when you have a national park and you choose to ignore it, it's a pretty bad decision. So that's my update on my committee side of it. Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Council-
I wasn't finished.
Oh, I thought you were
No,
finished.
I was
I'm
finished
sorry.
with
I
that.
stole your thunder. Go ahead to your committee.
Okay. What I'd like to have staff do at the next council meeting, bring back a resolution in support of changing Mercury Drive at the airport to Laws Drive. There is no buildings, no address that's going to be affected out there on that street. And of course, Jim Laws has been a long-time member of the Hollister Airport. He had a business out there for many, many years. He employed quite a few people over the years, and he's way up there in age. And when I say way up there, he's way up there. And I think the people asked to see if we can at least give him a send-off before he goes, a street named after him. After all the years, I'm going back to the 1950s when I was 40 years old back then. I used to go out to the airport and see Jim Laws and Jim Weatherly, not Jim Weatherly, but Weatherly and Jim Laws, and the old-timers out there that kept that airport afloat. And I think this would be an honor for Mr. Laws to name that street after him. It's not going to affect any business. There's no business on that street. And that's what I would like to have staff do the next meeting.
Is that it?
That's it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Councilmember Friend.
No meetings to report.
Councilmember Valdivia. Thank you very much. Let's move on to item G2. Report again from City Council. Do you have any other items you'd like to bring forward or talk about?
No, just want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July and to stay safe, and to, with the rally coming up, to behave themselves. Thank you.
Councilmember.
Yes, I would like to end this meeting tonight. I'd like to have the mayor end this meeting tonight in memory of the 19 firefighters that lost their lives in Arizona. I believe it was Phoenix, Arizona, yesterday, and if he would do that.
Yes,
Other
sir.
than that, I don't have anything else.
I'd like to remind everybody that on the 4th of July, we have the Kitty Parade. Starts at Vets Park. What time does that start, Jerry? 10 o'clock. It's a great place to bring your kids. They have a great time and a little history at the end of it. So it's a good event for the whole family. Councilmember Friend?
I just have a couple quick things. One, I want to thank Interim Chief Reynoso for his service while he stepped up and kept us afloat. And then I want to thank Dave Westrick for stepping up and accepting that new position. So I won't be available tomorrow night. I'll be in San Luis. So I hope you have a great time over there. And I just wanted to make sure Chief Reynoso knew that we appreciate him stepping up.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Okay, Councilmember Valdivia.
Okay, I'm on again. Wish everybody a happy 4th, and hopefully that, you know, we will all keep it safe. And also the parents, children, be careful with the children, make sure nobody gets burned. It's very important because even with those little sparklers, I have seen kids get burned, so be real careful. Nomás quería decir que mucho cuidado con el día de julio, 4 de julio. Cuiden a sus niños que no se van a quemar con los cohetes. To me, that's really important because I have seen, you know, even though it's the legal stuff, you know, but still, children are children, and they take, you know, and I just want to make sure everybody's safe. And also want to thank Captain Reynoso and also Dave for congratulations and also for the service, and now you continue to move forward. That's great. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. I too wanted to thank Interim Chief Reynoso for the fine work that he's put in with the city and the work he's done as interim chief. It was invaluable over the last 6 months or so. And I think him and Captain Westrick have been really an exceptional management team out at the police department. And I would fully expect the two of them to continue to be an excellent management team for our department out there. So I want to thank both of them for their, their previous service and for their service moving forward as well. The other thing I wanted to mention, I've had most of you have contacted me with regard to where we're at with the fire chief recruitment. I wanted to let you know we're going to be moving forward quickly. Flyers on that will be going out tomorrow, advertising tomorrow, so that we can roll through that process as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much. City Attorney, this is your
No
first
report,
day up.
Mr. Mayor.
But thank you for joining us here.
You're welcome.
We appreciate your help. Interim Chief Reynoso.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of items. I wanted to thank Jerry Johnson for being at the police department today, this morning, where we swore in another officer. Juan Jose Guevara, a native of Hollister, he's lived here his whole life, was sworn in as our newest Hollister police officer. It was
Where
great to
is
have
he?
him.
He should be here.
He spent the whole day doing his paperwork and all the first transition stuff, so it's an exciting day for him. He went home to spend some time with his family, but we look forward to seeing a lot of him, and he's a great individual. Got to know him a little bit through the hiring process. He's exactly what we need here, a team player and somebody who cares about the community. I think it's a great day for him and for us for having him. Also, I shared some pictures with you on May 20th. You voted to change the use of a JAG grant that we had for security at the police department. We're a little bit vague about what that meant, but I wanted to share that the project was completed on Thursday. Ballistic panels, bulletproof glass, for lack of a better term, was installed at the front counter. Added protection for the staff that's there. It's been needed for years and years. We were finally able to do it. I wanted to share that with you. We try to make it look more friendly. Some places it looks like a jail when you get there and they have bulletproof glass. It's user-friendly, very, you don't have to speak through an intercom or anything like that. We still in good contact with the community, but it also gives our staff the protection that's needed in these days. So I wanted to share that with you as well, and that's it.
Thank you. City Clerk.
Thank you, and thank you for mentioning the Kitty Parade. It does start at 10 o'clock. Fireworks are at dusk, which usually means about 9:30 to the pyrotechnics that are out there. Then July 20th is the Street Festival, and August 3rd and 4th is the Relay for Life.
Okay. Any other staff? No? Let's move on to item G3.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm here to give you the final report on the 2013 Hollister Air Show. All in all, it was a good event. Most importantly, it was a safe event. We had no accidents. I think the biggest injury we had was a bee sting on Saturday. I think that was the only injury we had. And it wasn't a performer, so we're good. We increased the advertising and went into it with a little better plan this year through the help of Jack Kirk, who's one of our local realtors. He really took charge of that component of the air show. Lynn Shipley, our staff member, was assigned supervision on that. They had a good targeted plan. We ran 1,000 TV commercials in English and 500 in Spanish. And we were able to increase the amount of people that attended the event. Bottom line is we lost about $1,200 since this was produced a couple weeks ahead of time because I got to turn it in. We've gotten our portion of the T-shirt sales in, and we paid the final performer. So ultimately, the final cost is about $1,250 that it cost the airport to put on the event. It was unanimous with the Airport Commission when I presented them this information that they were pleased that that amount of money was spent for the amount of goodwill that it created. And they thought it was a good use of airport funds at that spending level to generate this event. We did have a discussion on future events, possibly moving the date. The Airport Commission recommends on a 5-to-1 vote not to move it off of Memorial Day. I still recommend that we do move it off Memorial Day. If you look at the numbers, and I didn't give you all the numbers all the way back, our plateau has been about 2,500 people. That's about where it is on that weekend. As many of you are aware, I say half the city goes camping on that weekend. Since last year, a new air show has come up on the 4th of July. That would be an issue if we did go to the 4th of July. Tahoe has moved theirs to the 4th of July, and two components, one pretty critical component of the air show is involved in the Tahoe show, and we would lose them. And that would be my air traffic controller, my trained aircraft traffic controller, who is indispensable. Her name is Jody Lewis. I personally, staff recommends actually moving it to Father's Day. It's a normal weekend. I believe that through negotiations we can get the businesses out there to agree to work with us on that weekend. And I think it not being a 3-day weekend, we're likely to have more of the local crowd in town and affect the numbers accordingly. And while I'm up here, I'd also like to thank all the people that made this possible. We have a few in the audience. Cheryl over there, who is my money person. She takes care of everything that has to do with money. I don't have to worry about anything that goes on. She supervises all the finance staff and the retired city employees that we actually have work that position. No non-city affiliated people touch money at the air show. That's actually gotten a couple of air shows in a lot of trouble. Just having volunteers do that stuff, so we don't do that here. Tim's back there. Tim is one of the leaders in the ham radio operators group. He's our emergency communication system. When everything else fails, the hams can talk to each other, and they're indispensable each year. My webmaster extraordinaire, Tony's in the back there. Tony does our website, and it's an excellent website. There's a lot of information there. It's easy to get to. If something needs to be changed, I send Tony an email. He usually works on it between 2 and 3 a.m., and I know by the next morning it's taken care of. As a matter of fact, there's this rather unflattering photo of me that got posted that we needed to have removed, and it's been annihilated completely, I'm assured. So other volunteers who aren't present are Doug Jackson, who's the air boss. He's responsible for all the stuff that goes in the air. And I actually forgot one that is present, Larry Shaw in the back there. He had his head down. He's responsible for everything that happens on the ground, all the moving aircraft, supervising the volunteers that are parking aircraft, roping off aircraft, keeping people out of the aircraft. That's Larry's job, and he does a great job. Penny Lee, one of my staff members who's responsible for all the parking, somehow she was able to cram 900 cars in that place over 2 days and still have room for another 200 if they showed up. Penny is a magician when it comes to parking and a true joy to work with, and I am so lucky to have her. Both the Experimental Aircraft Association, which Tony is president of, and the Hollister Airmen's Association, which Ruth Erickson is president of, they play a key component of everything. The Experimental Aircraft Association can't sponsor the event or do any of that because of insurance reasons and everything else, but they provide tons of support. And one of the key things they do for this event that is the most important thing for me, and the thing that makes it all worthwhile for me, is they man my little orange airplane that all the kids get to go in, and they hand out the plastic wings to the kids. And that truly is, to me, what it's all about, is getting the kids out there and involved. In fact, I don't know how Tony did it, but he actually got one of the owners of the fighter jets to put about 150 kids through his aircraft, which is totally restored and an award-winning restoration. And the idea of all those little feet in my airplanes, I'm not sure I would have done it, but he did, and everybody had a great day. So with that, I'm ready to answer any questions you have on anything.
My son got a set of those wings. The biggest smile, the best picture. My daughter was too nervous to get in there. She thought it was going to fly away.
Those wings were Cheryl's idea.
But I have to say, if there's an event here in town, this is probably one of the best events, and I know all the council members feel the same way. You guys did an incredible job. Really, you really did. And it's just the greatest thing to go out there with your family and just enjoy our community. And Mike, I know how hard you worked on this, and I know you have the great help, but the council members want to show their appreciation, if I can, have Vice Mayor Scattini come up to the podium with you.
Mike, I just want to give you this plaque, and I want the people to see it. It's about an $80, $90 plaque, and I can tell you right now, the city did not spend one nickel for this plaque. I tell you that right now, not one nickel came from the city for this plaque. It was by private donation. It says, Mike Chambliss, Airport Code Enforcement Director, in appreciation for the dedicated service as manager of the 2010-2013 Hollister Air Show, presented by the Hollister City Council, July the 1st, 2013. Mayor Ignacio Vasquez, Pauline Valdivia, Ray Friend, Victor Gomes, and Mayor Pro Tem Robert Scattini. It's something you can hang on your wall.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. We all appreciate it very much. Councilmember Friend?
I'm almost afraid to bring it up. I don't want to rain on the parade.
Next meeting then.
Just a quick question. I don't claim to be a mathematician or a finance person, but I add up the revenue at $15,000 more than last year. And I'm wondering where the gap is, why we lost money on the deal.
Why we lost money the previous year? It rained Saturday. In 2012, Saturday was a washout. The only people that attended the air show on Saturday had traveled over 150 miles to get there, and they didn't know what the weather was going to be. It was devastating. We truly, Sunday saved us in 2012. It truly did. And it didn't really save us. It mitigated our loss. But I want to say we did $7,000 in sales on that Saturday, I think. I mean, the weather was just abysmal. I actually have photographs if you'd like me to email them to you.
Well, and I'm just curious because all your revenues were up. In fact, there's a couple that weren't there before, the advertisement revenues. And then at the end, you say, wait a minute, we spent $1,200 over on budget, when actually the revenue was up. And not sure I understand where.
Well, the revenue was $41,346.93, and then the cost to put on the show, once I got done hiring everybody, paying the insurance, renting the porta potties, renting the fence, everything else, was $42,982.22. So that was over what our revenues were. We did good, but we didn't quite break even.
Okay.
You're getting there, and it's going to become a bigger and bigger event. So.
I don't mean this in a negative way. I just wanted to understand where we were.
No problem.
Coming from that. Okay.
Is that it? Any other questions? Councilmember Valdivia?
No, I just wanted to tell Mike it was, thank you for your work. I know it takes a lot of work to organize, and everybody else who worked in the air show. It takes a team to make it work, and I just want to appreciate the hard work everybody did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Gomez?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks for all the work and all the volunteers that worked to put this event together. I know that I attended every year. I was even there on that rainy Saturday, and I still enjoyed it. But it's a great event, and I'm like the mayor said, it's one of those events that we could be proud of. You know, it's one of those events where you feel really comfortable bringing your family out to. So I completely agree with the mayor. It's good for the community and good to bring out the aviation community, obviously, as well. I know that you had a slight loss this year, but you know, if you look at the projected economic impact, and you know, I know some of those numbers might get a little fluffy, but I completely agree that you know it does have a residual effect, just like the rally does. You know, the rally, you know, everybody could look at it and be like, oh wow, you know, we lost this much money, though I never supported the shirt thing. I had to throw that in there. Though there have been losses in the past, it's hard to measure the residual effect that these types of events have in the community. Also the you know the street fair that we have every year, and you know the farmers market we have every week. I mean, those types of events are hard to measure the economic impact that it has. But anyway, I think this slight loss really is completely washed out when you look at the economic impact. So I think you did a great job, and I know you work really hard year after year on this, Mike, and we really do appreciate your hard work, but also to all the volunteers that are out there. Thank you for all that you do. Thanks, Mike.
If I could just give you a little bit of explanation on that economic impact number. That's the accepted official air show formula for calculating economic impact. The only variable in there that's really that you can play with is how many times the money bounces around in your town before it leaves the city limits. Because of the airport's location, since we're outside of town and on the wrong side of the town.
No, it's the right side of town. It's okay.
Well, I'm not comfortable with the number of bouncing around any more than 1.1. So that is a very conservative number, and I try not to fluff.
And I think it's probably pretty accurate. So congratulations. Thank you again. Councilmember Scatini?
Everything is said. Mike knows how I feel about the air show and about the airport, and associate with the airport probably since 1950. So you did a good job, Mike, and you worked hard, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. A lot of volunteers. You did an excellent job. I was out there the whole time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I have a quick question. So, before Mike runs along, so you did mention the date of the air show. Should we expect staff to make a recommendation in the near future regarding the date of the air show, or are you looking to stick with the consensus of the advisory commission?
I was kind of hoping maybe to get a handle from you folks if you wanted me to bring back an item to select the date. I will tell you this, this year, I mean, in the end, with the sequestration and the cancellation of any military event, because we waited so long to set the final dates for the air show, it really put me behind the eight ball about getting any military participation. I need to get that paperwork done by the end of the month for us to have a fighting anything, like an F-18 or a helicopter out there on display. Yeah, the end of this month. Because that paperwork has to go through every branch of the military for approval and then to the FAA for approval. And I need to have those approvals in hand by December when I show up to start hiring people. And this year I didn't have that. So none of the military that were present at the convention, for lack of a better term, were even willing to talk to me because I didn't have those numbers in hand. So with that information, I'm willing to whatever you'd like us to do.
Yeah, I think you should seriously consider that Father's Day weekend. I think I know myself, usually that weekend, Memorial Day weekend, our family's usually out of town, but I wanted to stay for the show my support. And I know a lot of people are out of town. Like you said, half the town might be out of town, but just the way it is around here. So thank you.
I had 6 scout troops all camping that weekend. I only had 1 group there.
Mike, here's a slip for that, for your plaque. You won't scar it up.
Thank you again. Let's move forward to G4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this item is to you to consider, conceptually consider reimbursement and a benefit area for a sewer line in Prospect Avenue between Trace Penis Road and Park Street. As part of the development of Walgreens, the Hawkins Group, which was the developer of that project, we had talked about, instead of them connecting to the street in front of their facility, going ahead and extending the sewer line along Prospect Avenue, which makes it available to the Gibson property, which it adjoins. And in discussing that, the Hawkins Group agreed to do that, not 100% out of the goodness of their heart. There were reasons that they wanted to do that as well. I believe they have an interest in that piece. There was certainly, it made it a little easier than having to deal with an encroachment permit for Caltrans, but probably not $95,000 easier. So what we're suggesting, and back in the day, when development was going on here, reimbursement agreements were a pretty common deal. From the city to developers to get paid back, from developers to other developers. And you'll be seeing that more and more, because as development goes, you need to extend facilities, you need to oversize facilities, and that occurs in a number of manners. What we're suggesting here, the estimated cost is $95. What we did is we identified the amount of square footage of retail that would likely be constructed based on our zoning requirements on both the Walgreen property as well as the Gibson parcel. Took that number, figured out what a square foot cost for that retail would be. It looks to, when the Gibson parcel develops, to reimburse the city at that rate. The Hawkins Group would pay us immediately their share. We would reimburse them the difference for their construction. One of the main reasons, I think, for considering this is we receive little or no return on our investments in our pooled cash and our various investments. This agreement would have some, reasonable amount of interest in it that we would be reimbursed. But one of the things I think it really does is it demonstrates that we're prepared to, work with folks when they have a development. We're prepared to have a sewer line go down and extend to serve another property when that doesn't necessarily have to happen. And, to be fair about it. And I think that word of mouth travels a long ways. One of the things we talked about, we made a presentation to the chamber this morning, and one of the things we talked about with them with regard to our water and having a good water quality and a good water system and all those things, that one of the things that is important to do when you start looking at, trying to get economic development is, a lot of times, a lot of those things are luck, whether somebody comes in or doesn't come in. And a big part of that's your reputation and whether folks are going to do that or not do that. And so I think that's important, is to make sure that we do have a reputation for that. So it's not, so I mean, that's why that's being brought to you. We think this is a good use of our funds. We think it demonstrates a cooperation in working on economic development. And we get our money back and we get some interest on that money. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you very much. Is there a speaker?
Marty Richmond?
Marty Richard from Hollister. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry I'm speaking so late at night. I have no, in principle, I have no objection to reimbursement agreements. My problem is I think we've had some way back in the past that have not been managed well, because they don't stay in front of anybody. They don't stay in front of the staff or stay in front of the city council, so that people say, well, what's going on with this? And they can get old. They get decades old. And when that happens, all of a sudden it's, well, you promised me this and you promised me that, and no one can find the paperwork. Now, I know that people will say, that's never going to happen again. Well, if you've ever invested any money, there's a rule of the black swan, which means once you've seen the black swan, there's another black swan out there somewhere. I assure you it's going to happen again. So I have no objection. I would hope that you would, at some time, direct the staff to put in a standard operating procedure, to write one on these kind of agreements if they don't have one, to establish a database of these agreements, and to bring that database forward periodically. Maybe it only has to be once a year. It doesn't have to be every 3 months. Bring that database forward for review by the council so you can see which one of these are getting old. And when you're gone and someone takes your place, they will know about it. It will not become institutional knowledge buried in some file cabinet somewhere that only comes up when somebody says, where's my money, 20 years later. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gomez?
I had a feeling Marty was going to bring that up.
Just City Manager.
No, I mean, that's a valid, and the way we used to do that, and I think it's a good idea now the way we are with the database, but before what there was is the building department had a map and it had every benefit area identified on that map. When people came in to get their building permits, they took a look, and is this property in one of the benefit areas? So I mean, there's a pretty easy mechanism in doing that, and I agree. I think it's important to do that now that we're going to be starting to look at this. The advantage of this is there's only one property at this point, so I think that's. The point is well taken, and I think we'll resurrect that, having the benefit areas shown on the map. We'll have that, identified in the building department. And I do think it's not a bad idea to identify that somewhere in the budget. And so at least when it comes to the budget every year, we can identify, we have these reimbursement areas, or we have these reimbursements, and have them accounted for somewhere in the budget. So I do think that makes some sense.
Thank you. Councilmember Gomez?
Yeah, absolutely. I can agree with you, Marty Clinton. And honestly, Marty, I appreciate you bringing that up, because when obviously right when we opened this item up, that was the first thing that came to my mind, was that one, and it can happen again if we don't do the job right, and if we don't have it, as you mentioned, before us, and knowing that it's in the books, then, and no matter what staff member comes in here, no matter who's working on it, they're aware of it, is very important. On the flip side, this is great. I'd like to see this, because obviously somebody's thinking ahead, and of the possibility. So, hey, that's wonderful. I'm totally excited to see something like that come up. So, I'm very supportive of this. So, and with Marty's points being made, I totally agree with this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Scatini.
This is for Clint. It's only $12,950 to hook up? Is that their share?
No, that's their share of this $95,000 portion of the line. It's not, I mean, they have to
Okay.
pay their normal impact fees and everything. But if you look, the map that's attached, it identifies there's 107,000 square feet of anticipated development. The Walgreens store is 14,000 of that. If you take that 14,000 divided by 107,000, multiply that by 95,000, you get the 82,000, or I'm sorry, you get the 12,950. So that's their fair share, yes.
Okay. And the other thing, where will the interest come from?
From the future property owners that are the property next door. And what it'll do is a formal agreement will come back to you, and it'll have all that information in it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Friend.
No, I don't have any issue with it. I agree with Marty and I know there have been projects that's exactly what happened. We need that database, and that'll work out pretty good.
Councilmember Valdez? No comment? Only comment I would have made is if we didn't go this route and we're waiting for Caltrans, we'd still be waiting. So I think it was a good move, and they'd still be ignoring our phone calls. So thank you very much. Does this have to be a motion, action item?
No, if I've got consensus, we'll prepare the agreements and everything and bring it back to you.
Is there consensus?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Move on to item G5.
The report and all of the applications are before you. So one appointment is to be made by Councilmember Scatini. One is to be made by Councilmember Gomez. And one is to be made by Councilmember Valdivia.
Okay.
Jerry, I was looking at the report on the computer. So Gregory, I thought Gregory Harvey and both of those were in District 3, but in different district?
They are in different districts, but a number of years ago, I thought I had put it in, oh yeah, in 2008, the council decided that in order to have qualified people, you could appoint anyone you wanted to.
Okay.
So the other two are reappointments. They are currently on the commission.
Yeah.
These two are new, and we have a vacancy with Mr. Scott's resignation, and he was representing your district, so that's why it's your appointment.
Okay, well, I called and talked to both of them, so I would like to go ahead and appoint Greg Harvey.
Okay.
So my motion would be for a reappointment then?
Yes.
Okay, of David Huboy?
Okay. Robbie has one also.
My appointment would be Chris Alvarez.
Okay.
Could we have a motion and a
motion.
second?
Motion to
Ratify.
ratify the mayor's appointments.
All in
Second.
favor? Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Item H, I, J, and K.
Motion to adjourn?
No, can we have Vice Mayor Scatini?
And if you could, Mr. Mayor, I believe, if you could.
Oh, we have to
adjourn-
go through
Well, no, you
closed
could
session.
adjourn to closed session, is that correct?
Oh, sorry.
Vice Mayor Scatini would like to make the adjournment.
I'd like to make adjournment in memory of the,
We're not going to close the session. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so we can't close it. You can make your thought about.
Can you,
Can we go into closed session in memory of what we said?
Let's go to closed session memory.
we're going to go into closed session.
yeah,
in
just like we
memory
do
of
at the start,
the
make a
19
motion to adjourn, or make a motion to go into closed session
I'll make a motion, we go into closed session
in memory of the.
in memory of the 19 firefighters that lost their lives in Phoenix, Arizona. Didn't realize it's that difficult.
Yes, it is. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
First items on the agenda.
Thank you.